We're sitting down with Jack Hubbard, the CEO of the Center for the Environment and Welfare. Now, before we get started, Jack, because we have a very important conversation to talk about before Giving Tuesday, but give our viewers a little introduction to your organization and what you do for the community.
Sure. Our organization, we're almost a watchdog organization that keeps an eye on the humane space to make sure that we help educate the public so that they can give, if they want to help local shelters, that they're directing their money to the right places.
Now, I'd like to first, let's be a little broad about it. For the organization, why is this important?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of confusion amongst the American public, animal lovers, and donors. You probably have seen the ads on television. One group, the Humane Society of the United States, running ads. A lot of folks give to them. They raise over $150 million a year.
Ooh.
And given the name, Humane Society of the United States, most people understandably think, wrongly, that they operate local pet shelters, and they don't. They're actually unaffiliated with local humane societies all across the United States. So we tell everybody, do your homework, because if you end up giving to the Humane Society of the United States from a TV ad that you might see, what you're actually doing is supporting an organization that gives only 1% of its budget to local shelters as financial grants and doesn't operate local shelters in your community. So it's very, very important to do your homework. And the Humane Society of the US is not the only national organization guilty of this behavior.
Absolutely. It's something we're starting to see more and more prevalence of, something that is projecting itself to the populace as a nonprofit is actually just a marketing firm, for lack of a better way of putting it. Now,
Well,
Jack, I'd love to zoom in slightly because I'd love to hear why this mission is important to you personally.
yeah, I, like many Americans, just love animals, especially dogs. Grew up with both dogs and cats. And I have also spent years interacting with shelter directors. And when you go meet the shelter directors all across this country that are unaffiliated with the national groups like the Humane Society of the US or the ASPCA, you meet some of the most kind-hearted people who are many times donating their time, their energy. They're under-resourced. The shelters are overcrowded, and in many cases, they're forced to make horrible, impossible decisions around euthanasia because they can't find enough folks to adopt the animals in their shelters and rescues. So what I tell everyone is go visit your local shelter, meet the shelter director, meet the volunteers. Hopefully you will be moved to support them financially, but even in an even better scenario, you might end up meeting a pet, a cat or a dog that's desperately in need of a home that you could bring home and literally save that animal's life and give them a forever loving home. So get in your car, go visit your local shelter. Don't just rely on TV ads. Do your homework, adopt an animal, and support your local shelters.
That boggles the mind, Jack. With so much need in our communities, not just here in Northern Michigan, but all across this country, we're constantly hearing shelters are at capacity. They desperately need help. Knowing that these organizations who play on our love for animals and wanting to support our local shelters to then sit on money that these shelters desperately need is just, it's frustrating.
You know what's also sad is that the national organizations are spending millions of dollars running ads in communities. And the local shelters donors in many cases are becoming confused. And they, in many cases, donate to the national group that isn't running the local shelters. So the local shelter directors are very frustrated at this dynamic because they have these mega charities vacuuming up money out of local communities, and the money is ending up in Washington, D.C. or in New York City paying these highly paid executives, whereas the local shelters with crumbling infrastructure, overcrowding, undercompensated volunteers are literally on the front lines doing everything they can to prevent euthanasia from happening across this country and trying to adopt out as many animals as possible. So people really need to do their homework And if you want to help local shelters and local pets, make sure you give local and not to one of these mega national charities.
Yeah. Jack, really, we could chat about this topic all day. It's so very crucial to this country and the well-being of our furry friends and family members. Where can people go for more information on your organization and do a little bit of research before giving this Giving Tuesday?
Yeah, we have a website, environmentandwelfare.com, where you can see some information on the national groups. And frankly, a simple Google search of your local shelter or your local rescue in your community that has an address within your neighborhood, your city, your state, that's where you're going to want to direct your funds as opposed to national groups.
10-4. Thank you so much for your insight here, because I know it takes a lot of research and a lot of passion and dedication to get this information to the public. So thank you for spending the time to help those who can't help themselves. A great opportunity as well to remind our viewers, adopt, don't shop, and spay and neuter your pets. We're going to make sure all the information you need to get more information on Jack, his organization, and what you can do to help your local shelters this Giving Tuesday. It's all going to be available on our website after the show today, 9and10news.com.